Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with, you're not going to believe it, after lots and lots of requests, I'm sitting here holding it. I'm so excited. Holy cow. The Abaddo London Symphony box on Deutsche Grammophon. I said at one point, Deutsche Grammophon should get off its ass and issue the good stuff. Well, Deutsche Grammophon got off their ass and they issued the good stuff. I'm so excited. Thank you, Deutsche Grammophon. We're going to go through this. All 46, I think it is, CDs. It's not just the LSO. It's the complete Deutsche Grammophon and Decca recording. So there are some other, like, London organizations in there on a couple discs. But yes, it's 46 CDs. But first I want to tell you something. I've gotten a lot of questions about the background when I don't have the gong, the tam-tam in the background, because I have a house guest right now. So the tam-tam is currently out of commission. It will be back shortly. But right now, you wanted to know what those are, those scores. These are some complete editions and pieces of complete editions. And we have here, let's see, Berlioz, the black one. William Walton is the green one. The pale blue stuff is Gluck. And the dark blue stuff, down there, is C.P.E. Bach, which is a lot of stuff, believe you me. And these are all things that I've accumulated along the way. And how and why I accumulated them, I'll get comfy here, may be another story and a subject for another video. But in the meantime, that's what they are, just so you know, if you're curious. Let's talk about Claudio Abbado. I'm so happy. We've got 46 CDs in this cube, and it's one of these sensible ones. I mean, they've done this right. It opens with its like little lid thing here, which is quite wonderful, rather than having, the big sort of case that slides out and everything falls in a pile because you can't pick it up. If you have it on a shelf, you take it down and the bottom's going to drop out of it and everything's going to go all over the place. So that's really good. And as I said before, Abbado's London Symphony period was, on the whole, his best period. This box contains more good stuff than any of the other boxes. The big boxes, that is. There's the little Chicago thing, but there's his Vienna box and his Berlin box. It still remains to do, I guess, an Abaddo clean up and do everything else box if they wanted to, which would have, like, Lucerne Festival and the the Mahler Chamber Orchestra, one of those chamber orchestra things that he did stuff with, later in his life toward the end. But this is the important pièce de résistance if you are collecting Abaddo or want to have the best of Abaddo. It is organized strictly in alphabetical order. I just am so impressed by the way they did this, except for the 3 bonus discs at the end, which are not LSO discs. But let's take everything out and see what we get, shall we? You start with, of course, a nice chunky booklet. See? You get the nice chunky little booklet, so you can see the chunk there. It's chunky, which is a good thing. And then, okay, how are we going to do this? Let's get all of this crap, pardon me, out of here. Oh, boy, one at a time. There we go. Now it's empty, you see. I have all the discs, and we'll replace them in the alphabetical order from which they came, if I can do this without making a god-awful mess. Here they are, all 46 discs, and they're sort of nicely rainbow-ly color-coded. I mean, what? This is wonderful, isn't it? So let's start at the beginning. Okay, I think I've got everything stable so that we can talk about them. First, I do want to point out that these things were always a little bit variable sonically. They started out sounding gorgeous back in the good old analog days, but then the early days of digital came wafting in and created some rather glassy and unappealing recordings sonically. To a certain extent over the years, that seems to have been modified or mollified or tempered in a way which makes these things more listenable than they were on LP when they first came out. But, you can still tell the difference, and it's kind of a shame. But, people get their backs up about the engineering of these things. The truth of the matter is, those same people often don't give a damn listening to horrifying, historical recordings where you can hear like nothing. I mean, these are all good modern recordings, and if you don't like the engineering entirely, well, too bad, because it is what it is. And we just have to deal with it. I'm really talking about performances. I mean, this sound is pretty acceptable all the way through, in my opinion. First, Bartók, the Miraculous Mandarin and Two Portraits. Very, very good. Miraculous Mandarin and Two Portraits. Exciting, really exciting. It's got a really, really razzle-dazzle, crazy chase scene. You know how that goes. I'm not going to do the whole thing, obviously, because as Anna Russell once said, my fugal singing isn't what it used to be, but it's very, very exciting. Good performance. Just knock 'em, sock 'em, blazing. It's great. The Two Portraits make a lovely bonus. It's a good start. And back of the box, oopsie, that's what happens. Back of the box, it was supposed to go. Did it go? Well, if I lean it this way, there, it's back of the box. Then we get Berg, the Lulu Suite, 3 pieces for orchestra, and Altenberg Lieder, beautifully sung by Margaret Price. The Lieder are probably the high point of this disc. These are good performances, but not great, and Abaddo remade them with the Vienna Philharmonic, everything on here. And those performances were a touch more trenchant. Abaddo was at the end of the day, he was sort of a gentle soul, an elegant conductor, a precise conductor, rather than a pedal-to-the-metal expressionist horror, let it all hang out conductor. Like Michael Gielan in this repertoire, or somebody like that. You know what I mean? So this is good. I mean, it's very good. Who are we kidding? But it's not. I mean, Abaddo did himself one better, and I would be remiss if I didn't point that out. Then we get Bizet, L'Arlésienne Suites numbers 1 and 2, and a Carmen suite, just the small Carmen suite, the prelude and 3 entr'actes, just 4 numbers. And I mean, what's not to love? They're lovely. They're fine. They're terrific. It's sort of short playing time, but it's Bizet. And, if you can't, everybody loves this stuff. You can't get enough of it, and that's fine. So then we have 3 discs or 2 discs? The 2 discs of the complete Carmen. Now, this is one of the great Carmens, unquestionably one of the great Carmens. You have Teresa Berganza as the Carmen, and Plácido Domingo as Don Jose, and Cheryl Milnes as Escamillo. I mean, it's a great cast, and it's very, very well conducted. Now, I personally think that there is more sort of verismo, blood and guts in Carmen than Abaddo necessarily brings out. Again, this is refined conducting. He doesn't go for the sort of hair-raising, sweaty, vulgar, proletarian elements that the score actually has. But of course, it's also French, and it's Bizet, and it's extremely elegant music in many respects, refined, and you'd be stupid to complain about this. So I won't. I'm not going to complain about it. It's a great Carmen, and it's nice to see it, although it's always been available separately. Then, interestingly, we get just the Brahms Fourth and the Tragic Overture. I think this was originally a Decca, isn't it? I don't know. Was it a DG from the day one? I don't remember what label it originally came out on. I remember the performance, which is very good. Abaddo was always a terrific Brahms conductor. That was one of his specialties that was kind of unacknowledged, interestingly enough, in his lifetime. His best recording in Berlin was the complete Brahms cycle and other Brahms music. It really was, because, Brahms was a fuss budget, and Abaddo was a fuss budget, and 2 fuss budgets getting along is always copacetic. I mean, really, he just did beautiful, beautiful work at Brahms. It was beautifully balanced, sensitive music making that was never crazy micromanaging, and just gorgeous. And so you can hear the start of that. And this, his first Brahms Fourth, coupled with a very good tragic overture. I mean, it's nice to see that back. I mean, where has it been all these years? Because the new Brahms cycle came out. So here it is in the box. Oh, Chopin and Liszt piano concertos with Martha Argerich. Pah. Chopin first, Liszt first. What's not to love? I mean, this is available in the Argerich box and 400 other boxes in the Argerich Abaddo Concerto box. I mean, this has been appearing in box after box after box, and rightly so. Now, here is a lovely Debussy disc, Le Demoiselle Élue. It's such a pretty work. It really is. Kind of silly, but very pretty. The Demoiselle Élue, the poem was by, what was his name? Rossini, I think, wasn't it? This is the guy who wrote the poem and buried it with his girlfriend when she died, then realized he didn't have a copy and had her casket exhumed so he could get his poem back. I think that's such a romantic story, don't you? And then we get the Afternoon of a Faun, the Prélude à l'après-midi d'une faune, and Iberia. Wonderful performances. Absolutely first rate. Abaddo was a terrific Debussy conductor. And there it is. Now, this was another Decca. Remember this thing? This was on Decca. The Hindemith Symphonic Metamorphosis, Janacek Sinfonietta, and Prokofiev, Bits of Romeo and Juliet. Weird coupling. Weird concept, quite frankly. These are the best performances of this repertoire that Abaddo did, because he remade them all, and they weren't as good, especially the Janacek. These, again, are decent. Decent, but not the best. Because I think Abaddo was really not constitutionally well suited to some of the rougher edges of Janacek, and even the Hindemith. Even the Hindemith could have just, I think, more edge and a little bit more rough-hewn sort of accentuated emphasis in spots. But they're very good. This disc was reissued, a million times back when Decca was doing the originals and all that stuff and all those different series. And then here we are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 discs of Mendelssohn symphonies, overtures, and other exciting stuff. And these are fabulous Mendelssohn performances. Abaddo was a great Mendelssohn conductor. He remade a lot. He never cared about remaking things. That was one of the things about him that was also kind of annoying. He would, it was nothing. When he jumped to Sony, he went and redid in Berlin all kinds of stuff that he'd just done for DG. And that was a stupid, terrible thing to do. It cut into the value of his own legacy. The one that really got me with Abaddo was the Il Viaggio a Reims, the Rossini, because the DG recording was fabulous and it was a premiere and there was no other version available and it was wonderfully done. And then he went and did it again for Sony with some of the same cast. And you had to ask yourself, why is he doing this? Why does he keep doing these things over again? He did, for example, the Italian Symphony in Berlin, probably better than this one a bit. But, these are really terrific. The digital recordings are a little, but I'm not going to sweat it. It's one of the great Mendelssohn cycles. Some people have jumped up and down and said they hate it. And it's like, just stop jumping up and down, people. Good is good. Just recognize it and move on. That's how I feel about some of these things. We can't be silly about these things. You can have other preferences. My favorite Mendelssohn cycle is Dochnani's. It's not this one, but it's awfully good. And it's very, very enjoyable. And I think that you got to give the guy credit. It was one of his major projects with the LSO, and he executed it beautifully. Oh, yes. Mozart. Symphonies 40 and 41. Sucks. Abaddo was a terrible Mozart conductor. He really avoided classical repertoire. He did some Haydn later in his life. It also sucked. This was so not in his wheelhouse. And when he did good Mozart, it's very interesting. It was always because he was accompanying somebody. Thank God most Mozart is accompanimental. That is, it's a piano concerto or something like that where the orchestra is along for the ride, however gorgeous it may be, or an opera where you have singers doing things and so you're accompanying. Abaddo was good when he was accompanying, But when he had to play Mozart as a purely orchestral musician, when this came out, I remember just how devastated we all were. It was very funny. When I was an undergraduate at Johns Hopkins University, there was a fabulous record store in Baltimore called Record Masters in the Rotunda in the Hamden neighborhood. And they had a classical shop and an everything else shop on opposite sides of the hallway of this little shopping mall. It was really a very nice little place. And they were great, those guys. They were just great. And when new releases came out, back in the days when they had record stores, remember they had browsers and you'd put the albums on them, like a stack of them because they'd order a bunch of them. And they would listen to everything and make little, very colorful little cards explaining how good all of the new releases were. And they weren't interested in selling something that was junk. And so, you have the cards and you'd look at the new things and would say, this is fabulous and that's terrific and this is interesting and that is okay and this is great. And then I remember seeing a browser with a big stack of this Mozart disc in it, and it just said, stinks. And they were right. It stinks. It absolutely stinks. Why does it stink? Well, it's just boring. It's excruciatingly dull, uninflected, unimaginative, totally unnecessary Mozart. Thank you, Claudio. This is the low point of his LSO legacy, Mozart 40 and 41. Ooh. Then we have, and this is also sort of a lot of stuff. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 discs of Mozart concertos. And these are all the late recordings. Let me see, this is all with Rudolf Serkin. And Abaddo's okay as an accompanist here. He really is. He's all right. Serkin is the problem. Serkin was about 175 and well past his prime. And nobody, and I mean nobody, thought these were great Mozart concerto recordings. They're not bad. Serkin was a great musician. You could argue that everything he did had a certain amount of insight. It's debatable. But a lot of this stuff he had done earlier for Sony with people like Zell or Sasha Schneider and the Columbia Symphony. And I had a whole bunch of different people. And it was better. It was just plain better. I mean, the pianist was more alert. His playing was crisper and more lively. And so these are Serkin in the autumn of his life. 7 discs of it. And I can't fault Abaddo and the LSO for being sensitive and genial accompanists. But, we know what this is. We know it's not the best. And it's a shame. But that's the way it goes. It's in the box. They put it in there. They had to. And, you're not going to get terrible Mozart here. You're not. Again, it's not bad, but it's not what it should be. Oh, this is fun. Pictures in an exhibition. That's all that's on the disc. Short playing time. That's kind of, this was always coupled later on with other things. And it's a fabulous Pictures in an Exhibition. It's just great. The Great Gate of Kiev is just a knockout. It's got a great tam-tam at the end, which is important. The LSO has a very good tam-tam, by the way, as far as tam-tam orchestras go. And Abaddo really let it go when he wanted to let it go. So I love this Pictures. I just don't understand why they released a disc with just Pictures on it. That's kind of... the problem is that the couplings are all going to wind up somewhere else. Usually it was like Ravel, right? You do Bolero or something like that, but that's in the Ravel Cycle. So I guess they didn't have anything else to put on there, although they could have recoupled some of this stuff and made for fewer discs, but that would mean a lower price. And what am I saying? Pergolesi, Stabat Mater with Margaret Marshall, and let's see who else. Lucia Valentini Teherani and Leslie Pearson playing the organ. One of Abaddo's very, very infrequent forays into the Baroque repertoire. It's as you might expect, a sunny, lyrical, very attractive performance of a very attractive work. It's nice to see it back. I really think it's sort of fun to see these things. Okay, Prokofiev, Symphonies 1 and 3, and excerpts from the ballet Shoo, the suite from Shoo, the Buffoon. This was a Decca recording, and again, it says Decca. And really, really good to see this coming back. These are very good performances. The performance of the version of the third has been excelled by Chailly and Muti, and now that it's been done like a million times. But in the day, you really couldn't hear Prokofiev third. It was exciting to have this. There weren't so many available, and it's held up well. It's all, I keep coming back to this concept of Abbado as a somewhat gentle, elegant conductor. The Third Symphony is not gentle, elegant music. It is hairy, sweaty, in your armpit music. But all things considered, Abbado doesn't overly prettify it, and that's fun to hear. More Prokofiev. Now this is a smoker. Alexander Nevsky. This is the best Alexander Nevsky. Period. It was from the day it was issued. It was stunningly recorded. I mean, stunning. The Battle on the Ice is the best battle on the ice you have ever heard. What's particularly wonderful about it is Abbado's flexibility of tempo. It really flows. Sometimes, because the rhythms are somewhat mechanical, it's that kind of stuff. It can sound very stiff, but Abbado manages to really nail the rhythm without compromising the energy and forward movement. And I just think this is, and with, of course, a fabulous percussion section with the tam-tam and bass drum whomping away throughout the work. It's thrilling. It's unbelievably thrilling and fabulously recorded. And I just love this. I love this. It's one of the best things Abbado ever did. It is the great Nevsky. Then we're already into the R's. Look at this. Okay, here's the Ravel Cycle. There it is. This is a superb Ravel Cycle. At the end of Bolero, he lets the orchestra cheer. When it's going yum, but the orchestra's going hey, hey. It's a moment of whimsy that you never would have expected from someone like Abbado. Because another thing that I realized about Abbado and listening to all this stuff, and I own all these recordings separately, but I spot check through the box. And all he do is that he really was kind of humorless. He was a very serious guy, and you wouldn't expect him to let his hair down in that way, as he does at the end of Bolero, but he does, and it's fun. These are fun performances. Mother Goose is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. You get Scheherazade with Margaret Price, who's wonderful, and also the Scheherazade Overture, which is always great to have. It's such a beautiful early work. And you get Salvatore Accardo playing Cigana. Ugh, a piece of garbage, that horrible thing. And, Ravel's worst piece of music. And again, the only issue with this is that the complete Daphnis and Chloe was a really early digital recording. And it has one of those wide dynamic ranges where the pianissimos practically disappear. And there's an intangibility to the sound, a lack of impact that's really a shame, because this would have been one of the great Ravel cycles if it had just been more consistent in the engineering. But it is still fantastic music making, and it's the kind of stuff that Abbado just did very, very well, because it's all about surface detail. It's all about getting the minute points absolutely right, and he does. He absolutely does. It's very, very good. Okay, now we're in the R's still. Rossini. Oh my, look at all the Rossini. Okay, so first we have a disc of overtures. Now, Abbado was a great Rossini conductor, maybe the great Rossini conductor of the 20th century, because Rossini was just as much of a control freak and was just as anal retentive as Abbado often was. Rossini is the guy who dictated just how far from their music stands the musician's seats needed to be. When he was a musician, when he was a conductor and doing his own work, he was absolutely obsessive compulsive. And Abbado just does wonderful performances of these overtures. And he did more for DG also. But these are great. And then you get the complete operas that he did, which are also great, absolutely outstanding. It's The Barber of Seville, Again with Teresa Berganza and Luigi Alva and Enzo Dara and Hermann Prey, and it's a classic. And this marvelous Cenerentola. Who's singing Cenerentola? Wasn't it? It's Teresa Berganza again, isn't it? Yes, I think. Yeah, it is. And it's absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Cenerentola was an opera that nobody paid attention to until Abaddo recorded it, I think. Really, really revealed to us what a fantastic work it is. I love Cenerentola. It's great. Absolutely great. And it's as people have said, it's a classical view of Cenerentola. It doesn't have magic fairy godmother. It has a fairy godfather, and it's all kind of Cenerentola without the hocus pocus, without the bibbity boppity boo, if you want to call it that in Disney parlance. Then we have Schumann Piano Concerto and the Weber Concertstück with Alfie Brendel. What's it all about, Alfie? I don't know, but he was a great pianist in the Weber Concertstück. The Schumann, it's good, it's okay. This is a Decca. See, you can see it was a Decca. But the Weber Concertstück is absolutely great. Of course, it was really a Philips, later became a Decca, that is now a DG. I don't know what it is. But yes, it's the Weber Concertstück is such a great piece. And it was a Brendel specialty. It really was. And he does it fabulously. It has pathos. It has humor. The Concertstück is programmatic. I don't know if you know what the program is. It's, the chatelaine is sitting in her tower because her lover, her hubby, is off to war, and she has horrible visions of him dying. Suddenly, she hears the sound of military music in the distance. He has returned. He's alive. She leaps up to a glissando, whoop, up the keyboard, and they celebrate riotously at the end. That's the Weber Concertstück. It's great. Go listen to it. Go now. Turn me off. Go listen to it. It's wonderful. I'm not going anywhere. You can come back later. Fabulous piece. Fabulous piece. Here's a little Strauss disc. Don Juan till Eulenspiegel and Tod und Verklärung. It's a little bit better at the Tod, perhaps, than the Verklärung, but these are lovely performances. Nice to have. Abaddo did not do so much in regard Strauss. And so these are nice contributions to his discography. Everyone will have favorite versions of these works, and there are, I guess, better ones available, but these are Abaddo doing Abaddo, and it's nice to have. Now, let's see. Oh, yes, 2 discs of Stravinsky. We're already on disc 39, guys. We're coming to the end, so hang in there. Petrushka, Pulcinella, The Rite of Spring, The Firebird Suite, Jeu de Cartes. These are generally great Stravinsky recordings. The Pulcinella is the best ever. It's phenomenal. The Petrushka was one of those early digitals. It's the original version, yes, the original version before it got revised. Again, this sounds a little glassy. Rite of Spring is terrific. The LSO always did a dynamite Rite of Spring. Jeu de Cartes is amazing. Possibly the best version out there of that. And the Firebird, well, that's the one thing that was a little bit slow and a little bit soft-edged. The Infernal Dance could be more infernal. It's the Abaddo letting his softer side get away with him a little bit. But it's romantic and atmospheric, and boy, all the other stuff is just slamming. So there's no problem there. Then we have Tchaikovsky, Fifth Symphony. A very nice Tchaikovsky Fifth. I like this better than his Chicago remake and the other dozen or 2 remakes. Who knows how many he did. And then the Piano Concerto No. 1 with Ivo Poguerelli. This was back when Ivo Poguerelli was a thing. He was a hot young thing who was doing really sort of amazing and romantically self-indulgent pianism. He since sort of kind of tried to make a comeback. That didn't go very well. I don't know what happened to him. He went insane or something. Anyway, these are fun. These are fun and worth hearing again after all these years. Then we get Verdi. Okay, Verdi. Arias and Scenes. Arias and Scenes. Nabucco, Macbeth, Vestbridge, Siciliani, Simone Boccanegra, with like different people, with Nikolai Gyarov and like people like that. Yes, there's scenes for like bass voice. They're really great. You know, Nicky Gyarov could sing, and Abaddo could conduct Verdi very well, and that's great. Vivaldi's The Four Seasons. Who cares? Next, let's see. Berlioz Tayden. This is in the bonus range because these are not with the LSO. This is the European Community Youth Orchestra. This was the on balance the best Berlioz Tayden out there until the John Nelson's one came out on what was then Virgin and whatever it is now, Warner or something. The sound on this was really, really glassy, and I remember it was just unlistenable when it first came out. It's better on CD, but it's still pretty bright and kind of electronically processed sounding in some ways. But it's a terrific performance of the Berlioz Tayden, and Abaddo was really good working with youth orchestras. He could galvanize them to sound like gangbusters, and they do there. They absolutely do. Then there's this old Decca thing, Brahms' Rinaldo with the Schicksalslied. Rinaldo is a cantata, let's see, for tenor and male chorus and orchestra. It is the largest Brahms work, I think, after the German Requiem. I mean, it may be longer than the German Requiem. It is absolutely the most boring thing that Brahms ever wrote. It is a snooze to end all snoozeroos. You know, one of those dark German male chorus things. I mean, Rinaldo, the story's great. Handel made a great opera about it. There's nothing here. I mean, is it pretty? Yes. Does it have nice things in it? Yeah, of course it does. Yeah, right, sure. Yeah, It's sort of Brahms's version of Wagner's Das Lebensmahl der Apostel. You know, just this big blowsy thing for a male chorus and sort of orchestra that's just, oh, God. And the Schicksalslied, okay, it's very good. I think this is a good performance of Rinaldo. First of all, it's on the quick side, and it's sensitively done, but this is the work itself. If you're a real Brahms fanatic, you may enjoy Rinaldo. I mean, I had a big argument with my very dear friend and Brahms scholar, Styra Avens, about Rinaldo because she thinks it's quite good, and I think it's just, you know, trash, and we will never agree. And you may think it's quite good. I don't know. But I ask you in your heart, how many times do you come home from a busy, busy day at the office and say to yourself, when you have limited time before bedtime or dinner or whatever you're doing, and say, oh, I just gotta listen to Brahms's Rinaldo. History has spoken, folks. Nobody does that. No one. Anyway, that's all right. I mean, I have no interest in proving it to be bad. It's not bad. It's Brahms. It's, you know, can't deal with it. Finally, the new Philharmonia, Tchaikovsky Symphony No. 2, The Little Russian, all up by itselfies on one little disc. This is disc number 46. And it is lovely and fun and nice to have. And again, I think it's better than Abaddo's Chicago remake. Now, those Chicago remakes were pretty good. I mean, they really were. But I think that the earlier Abaddo had a little bit more youthfulness, a little bit less introspection in music that does not sustain a lot of introspection. And with that, folks, the lid goes back on, and we have the Abaddo London Symphony Cube from Deutsche Grammophon. This is so great to finally have. Get it while you can. Get it. Because you know these things don't stay out in print forever. And I know a lot of you may already have some of this music. So if you already have it all, you don't need to get it again. We're not talking about, you know, totally reprocessed, remastered sound or anything like that, I don't think. And when I checked it, it sounded more or less the way it always has. But I will tell you, Abaddo was really a great conductor, especially in his younger period. And it was these recordings that created the mystique, the reputation that allowed him to go and make all of those lousy recordings in Vienna and Berlin. And of course, as I said in my talks on those boxes, not all of them were lousy, but they were much, much more inconsistent. Here with the LSO, he was red-blooded and raring to go. And go, he did. Good man. Thank you, Deutsche Grammophon. Keep on listening, folks. Take care.